All right. Well, first of all, Dave, thank you very much for being here. We are very excited to have you. I've been personally a longtime fan, so this is an awesome thing for me.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And
you got a beautiful store here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
I'm sure you see a lot of music stores, so I will take that as a high
I
compliment.
do, and it's nice, everything has a vibe, and some stores have more vibe than others.
Totally.
This has a good vibe to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So we kind of do this podcast when we have artists come in, and we like to take away as much of your story and as much as we can about your journey and kind of how you got to this point as possible. And our kind of goal is to inspire our customer base and our student base, that they can achieve their dreams and what their their goals are.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess we'll just get right into it.
Let's do it.
What are you working on these days? What kind of is your big thing?
I am extremely excited. I have a brand new band. The name has not been announced yet, so I'm not going to yet.
Okay.
I know it's just dumb because it's like, well, how do we know how to follow you? Just follow me on Facebook and you'll find the band. It's going to announce because I'm waiting. We did one show. That's it so far. A couple weeks ago. I filmed everything, recorded everything, and now the first video is being edited. So it's all live stuff. There's no studio recordings yet.
Okay.
Because, talk about inspiration, anybody, anything, you have to just do. And I said, I don't know why because I started playing when I was 10 and immediately had an original band and we were writing, again, 10, 11, 12, 13, went into a pro studio, recorded a full-length record.
Wow.
Did it again when I was 15. Another one came out when I was 16. That's all I ever wanted to do. Vocal band, fun music, and you just have to do it. I didn't know much on the guitar at that age, but I was learning and I would write, and the writing would inspire more things that I wanted to learn, and it just kept going around like that. Fast forward now, many, many years later, and I'm finally getting back to doing it again. So I said, I'm not going to go in a studio. I'm just going to write a few songs, and we're going to go and play it. I put a band together, rehearsed, and we went out and played one show, recorded it. And so now that's the content that's coming out. And it was a great way to get started.
Okay.
Now I can hear the way that the songs will work live with a band and manipulate them and then go into a studio and, lay down a record. Eventually, I'm writing kind of the other half of it right now.
Okay.
Anyway, the video for the first song, I think, is going to come out either the end of next week or shortly thereafter. And that's when, leading up to that, I'm going to release one letter of the name.
Oh, wow. So you have this already planned out. Okay. All right. So I really need
There's always a plan.
Okay. In rock and roll, a lot of times there's not a plan. It comes
That's right. No, I mean, again, throw yourself into it. Whatever it is, do it. Just be a doer. You have to be a doer. Along the way, you'll figure out the plan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The details.
When I did the show, I didn't say, all right, now I'm going to do the name and release it. It's just a fun thing to do. Yeah, it really has no meaning to it. There's no weight to it. People are going to see the name and go, I was waiting for that. Because there's nothing that can lead up to such a big unveil. It doesn't matter at all. It was just a fun way to build
it's exciting.
Interest and anticipation. That's cool. Really all it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who were you playing with?
So in the band, it's all Philly players.
Okay.
A fantastic singer named Michelle Lee. My bass player that I've been playing with for a long time named Rob Smith. Okay. Keyboard player named Matt Landis. And then on drums, a guy named Mike Zimbak.
Okay.
So I'm writing everything though, and the band may be a revolving cast depending on availability and such like that. That's kind of a really awesome thing though, because sometimes you have to work around schedules and that can not work out. I don't want to pass up gigs when, I can't do it because I'm on vacation. I get that, go on vacation, but I'm going to get somebody else to do it.
Sure, you still want to do the gigs.
That's also cool though, because I've learned in life, it's all about relationships and people.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Absolutely, because nothing works without that. And I'm a do it all myself kind of person, from writing to release. I record, mix, master, everything. Front to back.
So you're a jack of all trades.
I learned how to do it all over these years by force, really, because it was like, okay, I wanted to start releasing records. And I'm not talking in my teens. I'm talking once I turned professional and started doing this for a living. So my early 20s. And in between tours, I wanted to start releasing stuff. And it was like, okay, yeah, sure, I could go find a studio and such. But I had an interest in doing it and learning the process.
Okay.
So that I could be kind of self-sustaining. And, because again, working with Steve Vai, who I'm sure we'll get into at some point, he was very instrumental in, no pun intended, in saying, listen, if you want to engineer, it's not that hard. Learn how to do it, and then you're in complete control. And then the mixing stage and the mastering stage. And my first couple of records I didn't master, but now I do. And I love it. It's a lot of fun. But also now more than ever, I just want to be the writer, and I just want to go on tour and play.
Yeah.
So
and be in control.
Trying to push off all that other stuff to people who do it all day, every day, and they love it.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that's what I'm working on. New bands.
That's an exciting project. Yeah.
Name coming soon. Content coming soon. We're gonna get out and play everywhere and anywhere. A new band. I'll play Wednesday at 6 p.m. like this clinic, It doesn't matter. You have to get out and play and prove yourself.
Yeah,
you got to get out and do the circuit and do it and do it and do it.
And you know what? I really like the idea of the possibility of a revolving door of players because the interaction between musicians changes things so much. Yeah. So it doesn't become stale to you. You're not going to get tired of playing the same song, so if you're,
that's true,
but throwing somebody else's dynamic into there kind of really changes things. So it could be pretty cool.
And there's a lot of people out there who are in bands and they would say that this concept is crazy because once you gain a band and the trust involved and the relationship involved and everybody's listening to each other and you have an awesome thing going, why would you want to change that up? Ultimately, you don't. But again, the community aspect of it, the, bringing somebody in to just add a different flavor at times, that's appealing to me.
Yeah, it's cool. It keeps it fresh. So tell me a little bit about some of your influences and kind of what got you into guitar. Some of the artists
it's a really funny answer, but I was a drummer. I started playing drums when I was 7 or 8 or something. And then I saw Back to the Future.
Really? Okay.
That's the answer.
Okay.
Marty McFly up there with the Gibson playing Johnny Be Good. Yep. I said, nope, that's what I want to do. That was
awesome scene.
And as kind of lame as an answer as that is but it doesn't matter. Inspiration is inspiration. You can get it anywhere. So that really started me on the path of playing guitar. And then influences, early influences were Tom Schultz from Boston.
Okay,
I learned all about melody and harmony by transcribing Boston records.
Okay.
I mean, the guitar parts, and there's layers of them, the vocal parts, and there's layers of them. And when you transcribe each one, the guitar is up a major third, or here's the vocal and the guitar is up a fifth or something, really great education to do that kind of stuff. So he was up there, and I started playing in 86.
Okay.
So I was 10. And again, at that time, the hair metal, whatever you want to call that, slightly tragic era. Slightly great, slightly tragic. There was, well, I don't know about a lot, but there was some really great guitar players. Yeah. But even like 86-ish, and it was really kind of a, nature versus nurture type of thing, because in the room where I took lessons, just the environment, there was a poster of Robert Cray.
Okay.
There was a poster of B.B. King. There was a poster of Stevie Ray. There was a poster of Scott Henderson. There was a poster of Robin Ford.
Okay.
So naturally, curious as a 10-year-old, I started asking, well, who are these people? And then, I started trying to find the music. And of course, this is 1986. There's no internet.
That's right. Yeah. There's no Apple Music or
now
anything.
I have every song ever in my pocket on my phone.
Yep.
But back then, you go and you find the tape. And that was awesome because it was, all those players are blues players.
Yeah.
And that became a very great foundation. There's a huge education to be had by learning even the simplest blues. But you throw Henderson in there and Robin Ford in there, and they are on the cusp of jazz blues fusion, right?
Yeah.
So that piqued my interest because I was like, all right, B.B. King, Robert Cray, Stevie Ray, these guys, Robert Cray and B.B. King, more traditional, right? Stevie Ray tearing everything up, still steeped in tradition, and the other guys as well. But then again, Scott Henderson and Robin Ford, steeped in tradition, but throwing that jazz thing in there, that really piqued my interest. So I started learning a lot about theory at that point.
Okay.
Because my teacher couldn't really explain it, so I started kind of self-teaching, and it was a lot of transcribing. It's really what it was back then, because it was just, all right, let me listen to this, what's happening. And so I would start to figure out, Robin Ford using a diminished scale to transition between a 1 and a 4 and back and forth and stuff like that. Okay. I didn't have a name for it at the time, but I would learn the notes. And then eventually I gained the knowledge through, buying this book or this VHS tape back then. I was like, okay, so that's what's called diminished. I didn't have a name for it, but yeah, so it was just the nature of just this one. I happened to be in this guitar room in this guitar shop in my hometown, and it just happened to have these posters, and that got me started with those kinds of players. Okay. But then, of course, as a young person and seeing MTV and Steve Vai and Joe Satriani and all of these other, Van Halen, of course, all of these other players who, the videos were presenting this world of everything is a party and everything is, the crazy colored guitars and all that kind of stuff.
And the showmanship.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, arenas and surfboards going out over the crowd,
screaming
like
fans
David Lee Roth video.
Yeah.
And that was always awesome. So I did know who Steve Vai was, of course, and was a fan. So it kind of put me on this journey of the blues and then jazz and fusion. And by the way, Scott Henderson's VHS tapes way back then were like my Bible, because to this day, I recommend everybody go and watch them, because he laid it out for me. He laid it out right there, basic principles and not so basic principles, but principles to take with you forever. And we're going to talk about some of these things tonight in the clinic. But so those were some of my earliest influences.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who are you listening to currently? Like, what did you listen to in the car on the way here today?
Devin Townsend's new record.
Okay.
Empath.
He's awesome. Yep.
And Enya.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
I listen to a lot of different stuff. It just depends on the mood, like anything. I'm a mood person. So what am I feeling? I wanted to listen to Devin, who's a fantastic person and
incredible musician.
Crazy, inspiring musician to me, and vocalist. I love his singing. Very thematic, dramatic, even cinematic. I'm not trying to rhyme here.
It's pretty good.
It's just coming out like that. But he's great. He's great. I've had the pleasure of interacting with him in a few different events, and he's always a great person, very inspiring person, a guy that says, listen, if you're not doing what you don't want to be doing, get out of the situation and make it happen.
And he's on his own path too.
Yep.
It's not something you can shove into a box and say, okay, it's this kind of music kind of thing. And we've sold his, he had a PV 7-string baritone guitar for a little while that we sold. It was just a unique, cool instrument that only fit him kind of thing,
Right. He's very unique, and that's awesome. So every time he comes out with a record, I certainly give it plenty of listens, because there's a lot to gain from it. But like I said, then I switched over to Enya. I grew up, my mom used to listen to Enya, so I, always found it just very soothing, and when I'm sitting in traffic, driving here, it's like coming out of DC, where I spent the day, it was like, okay, let's even this out.
Yeah. It's kind of a Zen drive.
Yeah, exactly. I listen to everything. I really do. But that's what I listen to today.
All right. Well, that's a good answer. I was not expecting you to say Enya, so I'm glad that you threw me off.
It's an unexpected answer, but I have mentioned her many times. If there was one artist I would love to work with in this lifetime, I would love to do one song with Enya.
That's cool.
Just because, her voice, her voice and her writing, it's just very, it's awesome. And people know her, even if you don't know the name. If you've watched, all the Lord of the Rings movies and the other movies that she was involved in, maybe what are the other ones? I don't know.
I can't help you with that.
Doesn't matter. But yeah, she's great.
Tell me a little bit about your relationship with PRS. I've seen, I follow you on Facebook and Instagram, and I've seen you unveil some pretty cool guitars over the last couple years.
Sure.
I see a lot with the Silver Sky. I see, I think you have a couple, I'll call them DW customs.
Yeah,
I think you have an awesome acoustic that I've seen before. So tell me about that relationship and kind of how you guys got started and what draws you to those instruments.
I was invited to the factory back in 2009 and met Paul, met everybody that day. They sent me home with a bunch of guitars, and I kept one, which was a 513, a Swamp Ash 513 rosewood board, 22 frets. And it was just great. It was really great. And then I said, well, I've got, a bunch of touring coming up here, and I need 7 strings. So we did a 7-string 513, which I still think is the only one in existence.
I've never seen another one, so that could be very true.
And then we did a custom 24 7-string, which there's a few of those out there. I know Monkey from Korn has one, and Emil Wursler. Do you know him, Emil? We want to talk about might be the best alternate picker ever.
Really?
And a heck of an awesome guy. He's an inspiration. You should have him in for a clinic.
Okay.
He's a pure S artist.
Okay.
Awesome on every level.
Wow, best alternate picker ever.
I mean, that's something to say. And again, but I'm not an alternate picker. So I get amused and very amazed when I see it done so well. And that's a dumb thing. There's no best. This is art. I don't care if you're
music,
technical or
still.
not. I'm really not a technical kind of player, really. But his alternate picking is standout.
Okay.
I mean,
I'll definitely have to
for
check him
sure.
out. That's really cool.
He's amazing. Anyway, so we did some 7 strings, and then over the years we've done various customs. And right time, right place for me as a guitar player, because I need 7 strings, but I don't play them anymore unless the song calls for it. So I do play it a lot if I'm on tour with Steve Vai.
Okay.
Because from when I joined Steve's band in '99 up until very recently, Steve didn't touch a 7-string. Maybe it was in the studio, but live, everything 7-string was on me.
Okay.
So most of the stuff I've done with Steve over the near 20 years is, it's been on a 7-string, and PRS's 7 strings are fantastic, and a lot of people are very curious about them because they're still just a 25-inch scale for 7-string. A lot of people are, why? It works, and it feels really good. That was the whole point. I don't want it to change from like a custom 24 standard to like a 7-string. I wanted it to feel the same, so that's why we kept it that way. But the word I always use with PRS is trust. I've done clinics all over the world, really, and I'm not saying that to be arrogant or anything, but sometimes I do them and I don't take a guitar. I use whatever the store has, because I could have very easily not brought my guitar here. I could have picked up any of these things, and I know it's going to feel good.
Right.
Guitars in guitar stores are not yours. I'm talking to the customers now, because sometimes this comes, that doesn't feel good. It's not your guitar yet.
Yeah.
It's not set up for you yet. I did some work to this thing to really make it mine and make it feel the way I needed to. But generally, I could pick up a PRS anywhere and have the feeling that I'm used to, that I really enjoy, to give me what I need in a guitar right now.
And to be a tool to do what you need it to do for the performance.
And anybody who's bought a lot of guitars from a lot of different manufacturers, I think it's safe to say that pretty much everybody's in agreement that consistency is an issue.
Yeah.
But that's the trust thing with PRS. It's not an issue. It's really like remarkably consistent with the build quality and what you can expect. Like if I pick up that 594 over there, or one in another store, which I have done plenty. I love those 594s. I saw you have, I think, one over there with P90s, which makes me drool. I love P90s,
that green one,
especially on that guitar.
Yeah.
I love that. But the consistency, I can just trust it. I know I can get a very consistent build, whether I'm in Australia or Asia or here or Europe, wherever. And that's huge, because I've got other manufacturers' guitars, and they were definitely not as consistent.
Okay.
Great. Everybody makes great stuff.
Sure. And when you get to a certain point, everybody's guitars are nice,
exactly.
and there is a difference in feel when other manufacturers, you could take 3 of the same Model X, and one is stand out better than the rest of them. With the PRS, I think, and we stock a lot of PRSs, but every one that you take out of the box feels the same in terms of, the neck carve, the way that the other one felt. The fretwork is always amazing.
Yeah.
Normally the action, even when you pick it up out of the box, fresh, is set well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They stay in tune. They're really amazing instruments, and the detail that Paul puts into them is also on another level.
Yeah.
It's also really pretty amazing.
And I would highly recommend to anybody, go and sit, if you can, have a conversation with Paul Reed Smith and buckle up, because he's very energetic.
Yes.
But just from a few minutes, you can get the sense of how laser focused and fanatical he is about every single detail. In fact, the day that I met him, when I was invited down to the factory, I live in Philly, I drove down, walked in to his office, and he's standing there with nuts. And in his office, he's got this long table, and he's just dropping them. He didn't even know who I was. I walk in, and he just goes, "Listen to this." And he drops this one. It's like, "You hear that?" Drops another one. You hear that? And then he drops this one that I think became standard on the guitars. And there was a note to it. Yeah. The other ones were thud, thud. And then this other one went ping.
Yep.
There was a note to it. He's like, that's that. We're putting this on all the guitars now. And it was like, that was a great introduction to how Paul is, because he is, everything, the screws for your bridge, the tops of your tuners here to lock them, everything has a purpose, and he's so fanatical about that. Again, when the person whose name is on the building and your guitar, to the instruments, that trust is a big thing. Absolutely. And everybody wants to have trust in life. It's it's
a natural instinct.
It is, and when you do have it, you feel safe, you feel comfortable, and you can then get that out of the way and just enjoy.
Sure, yeah, and do what you're meant to do. So you run a website called Gitopia,
correct?
Which is a really awesome educational site.
Thank you.
And I have seen a lot of the videos that you posted as kind of teasers as to what you're covering and everything.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners about that. That's really, I think, an awesome tool for a kind of an advancing student or someone who is kind of really interested in taking their guitar playing to the next level, kind of thing.
Yeah, everything I know is going into that site. It's it's a subscription-based guitar education website. On-demand video, which makes it awesome. And when you think about it, that is the way education should be done. Because I've been to schools, as anybody has, but I'm talking about music schools and such, where you have a week to get through this chapter, and whether you're ready or not, the page has to turn, because they have to get you through all this stuff in a semester.
Sure.
Not the way to do it. I'm sorry. It's not going to sink in. Everything is not going to sink in, because it's not about what you ingest. That's gaining more tools. Like I always say, I always equate it to a painter going to the store and buying all the colors. You just acquire the colors. Do you know how to use them? And that takes time. Yeah. In a week, you can't get that stuff down. So it's a great way to get introduced to stuff. But when things are on demand and you can watch it and then watch it again, and by the way, you have 5 minutes on your lunch break, great, watch a video.
Yeah.
At night, it's on your time. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. People need to realize how beneficial on-demand resources actually are.
And you can go back to something if you're fuzzy on it, or you're not 100% comfortable.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't work for you how you thought it would. You can revisit it. So do you have videos on there? Do you also have like printable resources that go with that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. Okay. Right now, and it's been live for a few years, and it's been great. It's doing well, and I have been talking about and working on the next version of it.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
But it's been taking a long time. One, because of touring. Two, because of this new band. But also because I know in the development world and just building a business in general, you kind of get started and you add on, you change, you add on, you take away, you go and go and go. I am kind of not doing that. I'm going through and putting myself as the user and saying, all right, if these were the features, what's missing? All right, let's add this. So I've been going through this revolutionary process. Let's not say revolution, let's say evolutionary process of the site over the last 18 months. Okay, what if this was the site? All right, but it's missing this. All right, add that in. Now what? Okay, let's add this in. I'm trying to get everything covered. That will never happen, but I'm trying to get as much covered to leap it forward to a point where it's just absolutely awesome. pretty close to there. It's really just up to me to finish up a couple of things and then hand it over to a dev firm and have them build it and then get everybody on it. But so there's like right now, there's a lesson of the week. Okay. And that lesson is learning licks is great. It's an example of how to use what you're learning, a piece of theory, some technique. But if you learn a piece of theory and you learn some technique, it's like the painter who bought a set of brushes and some paint. You acquired it, but do you know how to actually use it?
Right.
So the lesson of the week says, let's take this theory and this technique. We're going to put it in this genre. And now we're going to use it. I'm going to exemplify how to actually use this. And then every lesson, there's virtual trading.
Okay.
So I say, all right, I'm going to show you the lick. We're going to talk through, we always talk through it note for notes. I, growing up, hated when somebody would say, here's your lick. Okay,
yeah, you're trying to figure it out, like, oh,
right. And I'm like, wait, whoa.
Or there was a slur there that I didn't get right, or whatever. Yeah.
I just am very detail oriented, and I don't want any questions left. So I say to people, all right, we're going to talk through every single note here, but that's not enough, because then we put a jam track on. So with every lesson of the week comes a new jam track.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I show how to actually implement it into your music, because that's all that matters. At the end of the day, no matter what you learn or how much you practice a technique or anything, if you are not improvising with that, you're not at the goal. You haven't reached what this is for. It's a musical instrument. If you're not playing music with it,
you just have the tools. You're not using it to what,
exactly.
That's awesome.
So we then practice it over the music so we can start to hear it in context, but then we do virtual trading. So I'll say, all right, now we're going to take the lick and I'm going to just play the first couple notes, and that's it. And I say, all right, now you do it. And I stop playing there on the video that you can watch back as many times as you want, and I leave space for somebody to do their version of it.
Really?
And the point is, if you've got this long lick, great, but a couple of notes out of that, maybe the first couple of notes could be equally as inspiring to fuel your improv, you know? And it's about the thought process, getting people to not just recite, you know, the whole education system. Think about when you grew up. Oh, history class, you have to learn these dates of this war and blah, blah, blah to pass a test. And then what did we all do?
No.
Forgot it.
Yeah.
I don't use it. Now I love history. I was walking around DC all day. I love it. But back then, it didn't really serve a purpose. If I show you a lick, it's great. Might inspire you for something. But if you don't know how to have kind of the stream of consciousness thought happening, and then you're just reciting something you're shown, it's really not doing what it needs to be doing. So I try to show people in every one of these lessons, here's the lick that you learn, but what if we just take the first three notes? And now I'm going to do something with it. Now you do something with it.
Yeah, you're teaching them how to be a real musician
really
rather
important.
than just recite exercises.
Absolutely.
Kind of
so those are just two of the features on there, the lesson of the week and the jam track. And so there's a section called the jam track jukebox, and I build them all.
Really? Okay.
Record them, mix them, master them, because I've been, and many people have been in the situation where they're like, all right, I'm learning this, it's in this key and this quality. I need to go scour YouTube to try and find something that's functional for my purposes. That's why I purposefully build them for every lesson.
Yeah.
So you never have to break your momentum as a practicing guitar player. You know, I don't want that to ever happen for me. So I think there's currently, as of today, actually, the lessons come out every Wednesday. So today is number 352.
Wow.
So there's 352. Again, I call them hand-built, because I do. I play the guitar, I play the bass. I have a Roland V drum kit that a lot of times I play the drums, or I might use some loops. But it's really great. You know, it's a great resource, because, again, what we have to do, no matter what the education function is as guitar players, what's the end of the road? Just being able to play. If I show you a D chord today and you've never touched a guitar, but you start going, guess what? You're playing music.
Right.
Day one.
Right.
And if you're teaching, because a lot of like page one books, you know, and day one guitar lessons are going to say, all right, we're going to show you the D chord, the A chord, the C chord, the G chord, the E chord. Great. I don't know how to do anything with them.
Right.
So that all means nothing.
Right. And it's not
Take
inspiring.
one chord and learn how to make music with it. Let's talk about strumming. Goal focused. That's the way it has to be, because everyone is buying this stuff to emote, to play music, you know, and if that's not happening, there's a lot of dysfunction, and I'm not throwing anybody else under the bus as far as education resources, but I'm just saying, in my world, That's what I didn't like, and this is why I'm fixing it to be like this.
Okay.
So the site's been live for a few years now, but it's an infant. It's barely scratching the surface. When this 2.0 comes out, it will skyrocket forward as far as way more features, way more teachers, all sorts of really awesome stuff. So I'm very passionate about it because I've seen what it does, what it can do with this kind of learning philosophy. I get emails plenty saying this is fantastic because I never knew what to do with this scale. I always just practiced the scale.
Yeah, and it sounds like an exercise.
It sounds like a scale.
But now you're using it in a real world.
Once you learn the scales, stop playing them. That's not music.
Yeah.
Use them to write something,
I'm really excited to see version 2 then. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, me too.
I'm
excited to not have to think about it anymore.
So I first saw you and kind of got familiar with your playing through the Steve Vai Live in Astoria DVD, which I think was early 2000s is when that came out.
I think it was 01, yeah.
And I was definitely super inspired. I think we were pretty close in age, and I was a young college student then, and I read this amazing story that you originally had answered an ad to be an assistant for Steve Vai. Is that correct?
Not for Steve, for his manager.
Okay.
But I didn't. The ad. So the story is that I moved to LA to go to Musicians Institute after college. I went to college, and then after that, I set out to pursue music. So I moved to LA, figured Guitar Institute of Technology would be a great place to start. The day I got to LA, I went to MI because they were doing some kind of orientation, it was really kind of to find a roommate, but I walked in and there was this corkboard with postcards tacked on it. And that was, at the time, late 90s, the job board.
Sure.
And there was one, and I knew that, listen, there's a billion guitar players better than me. It's about, like I said earlier, it's about people. It's about who you know. It's the cliche, but that's
true.
The truth. Yeah. So I knew I had to start to meet people, and so I was looking just for some kind of internship, just a couple days a week. Obviously I was there to go to school, so I didn't want anything to interfere with that. I didn't want to get like a real, full-time job.
Yeah, sure.
So there was this one that literally the first thing it said was make your own hours, management firm,
awesome. It sounds like me.
Yeah, and there were no names. It was just a fax number, not even a telephone number. So I drew up this resume and sent it over. And that night, like unusually late, I got a phone call, like 11.
Okay, that's pretty late, yeah.
And it was this woman named Ruta Sepetys, who is now a best-selling author. But at the time, she owned a management firm, and she called me and she said, hey, I got your fax.
It's funny to say fax.
I know, right? I got your fax and just wanted to talk a little bit and tell you about the company and what you'd be doing and blah, blah, blah. So she's, went through her artist roster. And the last one she said, and by the way, do you know a guitar player named Steve Vai? And, in my mind, I'm going, of course. I had a poster of him on my wall when I was growing up. But you can't put yourself into the fan category.
Sure.
Because then
you're a professional. You're here to
you're
do a
looked at differently. Because then they're like, is this going to be cool to send this person over to Steve Vai's house, or is it going to be a fan?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sign this? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't take a picture with you real
you
quick
can't have
whatever.
that.
Yeah.
You can't have any of that. So I said, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. I'm a guitar player. Of course I know who Steve Vai is. That was it.
Yeah.
Extent of the conversation about Steve Vai. So I started working for Ruta. And I worked for a year, and over that year, there were functions with Steve. I would go to his house and drop off papers or, basic intern work. Yeah. That was it. But through that, Steve and I got to know each other. Never once talked about he knew I was a guitar player. He knew I was going to guitar school, but I never said, you got to listen to me, man. You got to listen to me. That's, blah, blah, blah. I never once said it. Almost a year later, Steve finally said, hey, I'd love to hear some stuff you're doing. And I happened to be recording a small demo with some of the people who were in the recording program. Okay. And tonight I'm going to talk about writing because it's really important. It is the path to becoming a really, I don't want to say a good guitar player, but an artist. Yeah. This really all comes down to, if you're not going from inside out, meaning writing, you're not creating your art, it's really important. I knew that. And like I said, I've been doing it since I was nearly 10. and happened to have 4 songs that were nearly complete with this recording program, these recording program people. I said, yeah, I'll get you a demo, tape. No, sorry, it was a CD, actually. It was late 90s, so it was a CD, not a tape. Yeah. But I gave it to Steve and never heard back. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And this was also the time when he was starting his record label. So he was getting flooded.
Okay.
And I figured,
so, yeah, okay.
He'll listen to it, or he listened to it, or doesn't give a shit. I never brought it up because that's not professional.
Absolutely.
I might have like many months later, but a few weeks later, then I was working for Ruta. I was like, at the end of the week, and she gets a call, and it was Steve. And, she picked up, she's talking to Steve, but she's going like this to me. She's like pointing at her phone. I was like, what?
Yeah, what do you mean?
She gets off the phone and she said, Steve's going to ask you to join his band.
You're like, what?
And I was like, whatever. Really, I just didn't believe her. But, it's not that I didn't believe her. I was just like in disbelief. That's the difference. I was like, okay. So he called me on my way home from working for Ruta that day. And he said, hey, yeah, I like your playing. I could use another guitar player in the band. We're about to go on a world tour. Would you like to do it? Of course, I said, yeah, of course, thank you so much. I'd be honored to. And he said, okay, I'm going to email you the set list and the songs. This was a Friday. He said, I'll see you at my studio on Monday. Ooh. I was like, okay, I'll do what I can. So Monday morning, I went to school and I said, I have to leave, because you go to school to kind of get an education, to hopefully get a job. Once you have the job, what's school for? You don't need it, Education, a real education, as anybody knows, comes from experience. Yep. Get out of the classroom. Yeah. Just be a doer. Called my parents.
I'm sure
I said, Mom, Dad, I'm leaving school because Steve I asked me to go on tour, and they were both like, that's nice. That was it. Because they didn't, they're older. There's a huge gap in my age and my parents' age. But they just said, that's nice. They didn't really get that what was about to happen, like the full scope of, I'm going to be on a crazy tour bus.
Yeah.
Flying all over the planet, playing shows, and by the way, getting paid for it.
Learning.
Of course. Yeah, always learning. That it hit them when we finally got on the first U.S. tour to Philly, and they came out and they saw, there were thousands of people there, and it was a production and all that great stuff. And it was just it was a fun moment. It was a very nice moment. Anyway, that's the story. That's how I got into Steve's band. That was 99, October of 99. So next month is our 20-year anniversary, if you want to put it that way.
That's cool.
It is cool. I mean, it's been a hell of a journey. It has been, as you said, an education, a nonstop education. He's the one who got me into recording and doing everything front to back by yourself, which, is not a necessary thing, but it's nice to have those skills as well. Because even if I'm working with an engineer or a producer or something, I know the whole process front to back, so I feel that I can work with them better. Yeah. And I can say, you know what, let's put a dotted eighth note delay on this guitar right here. And if the engineer is not on the same page, maybe they wouldn't have thought of that. But I can say the specifics, and we can just get everything done faster and better. And again, all of that is for getting out and playing. For me, that's the end of the road for me. Yeah. That is the goal always and forever, is playing live.
Yeah. And it also kind of puts you in control of your own destiny, because you're not reliant upon other people or other people's ideas or how they see things.
And now more than ever, with technology and the cost being as low as they are, anybody can make a pro record at home.
Yeah.
I mean, you can really even do it on your phone at this point, which is fantastic. But you do need some skills. Yeah. And if everybody learns just a little bit of it, you don't have to rely on anybody. You can get your music out and up there on iTunes next to the Beatles. Yeah. By sitting at home and playing with your phone. Yeah.
With and minimal expense, really.
Have a phone.
It's amazing.
A laptop, an iPad, whatever it is. These things all can get it done.
So you've played with some amazing musicians throughout your career. I mean, even just the folks that have been in the Vibe band with you, like Billy Sheehan or Tony McAlpine or something. Yeah. Who were some of the kind of pinch yourself moments that you were super inspired, and I can't believe that I'm playing with this artist?
Well, all of them, really. You mentioned Billy.
Yeah.
You mentioned Tony McAlpine. I mean, when I joined the band, Mike Keneally was still in the band. Mike Mangini, who's now the drummer for Dream Theater, was in the band. And, I mean, Mike Mangini basically taught me about odd meter. I really learned from him, and it was a conversation, but it was also osmosis, just being around, because some of the Vice songs are odd meter.
Yeah.
So he broke it down for me, and Virgil Donati was in the band after him, who's another amazing drummer. It's just been, and the guys, Philip Bino, bass player, drummer now, Jeremy Colson, everybody, of course, and Steve, everybody, has been amazing. And then there have been multiple G3 tours that we've done with Satriani and John Petrucci, Paul Gilbert, Malmsteen. I don't know. That list goes on.
Yeah.
But then there's also the events that we've done. I mean, we played a show with Aerosmith and Toto one time for a crazy amount of people.
That's cool.
And that was pretty awesome. We did Eric Clapton's Crossroads Festival. I think it was the first one in 2006 or something like that.
Okay.
Maybe even before that. I don't know. I mean, I walk in the green room and there's Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
Just sitting by himself having grapes. And that kind of stuff. It's every step of the way is be professional, but it's okay to geek out on it.
Yeah.
It's okay to.
This is amazing. You should enjoy this. This is a cool,
No matter what you're doing, one of the things I've learned aside from, some basic life principles of, relationships are everything. How you treat people is everything, but also being able to stop and have moments of appreciation and being grateful for sitting here in a beautiful store having a conversation. I mean, there's people who are doing extremely difficult work right now as we're sitting here.
Right, around guitars, talking about music.
Doing what we love.
Yeah.
You have to kind of get your head out of your ass and appreciate that. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people don't, and including me. It took me many years. And many these amazing people I've worked with, they've all had an influence, in growing. But that's life. You grow. Hopefully, you figure things out, and you get to these points where you can appreciate and therefore spread that to everybody else. And because it is infectious. When somebody's in a good mood, it kind of everybody else
feels it. It goes.
When somebody's in a bad mood,
everybody
feels
really
it too.
That's right.
And nobody wants that.
So do you still get pre-show jitters or get nervous? Not at all.
I never get nervous.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it's a life thing, but there's no consequence. The sun's going to set tonight. It's going to come up tomorrow. If I do a terrible job tonight, which I won't.
That will happen, but
or I do the best job ever, life goes on.
Yeah.
And you got to zoom out. You got to zoom out of your little world and realize, how inconsequential many things are, while being grateful for everything. I'm trying to find that balance, and but that's where my mind is. I do my best for every single thing that I do. Life's not worth it otherwise, in my opinion. But I only take that so far because there's no consequence. Yeah. There really isn't.
Okay.
You don't break the law, but there's no consequence otherwise,
Yeah, we're not encouraging that, but
exactly. No, just let check yourself.
Yeah.
Are you taking things too seriously? And again, that doesn't mean half-ass anything. Do your best. You won't get where you want to be unless you are working hard at what you want to be doing. But you gotta lighten up a little bit.
When I first encountered you today, you were hunting around the music store, telling me how much you love to pick through old pedals and find new gear.
Yeah.
Is there some elusive piece of gear that is out there that you've always been looking for, or that you had and maybe had gotten rid of at one point, or?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I mean, I like things to be pretty simple. Because the more, well, I can't even say that. I was going to say, the more that you've got going on, the more chance for a little cable to break, or something goes down, and et cetera. So I try to keep things simple, but it's not even about the gear. It's like, how did you get to that point? You know, I know what I need out of my tone. You know, I can usually make that happen in many different situations. Like today, we're playing these beautiful PRS on 020s, and I don't own these amps. I have a few beautiful PRS amps. I don't have these in particular, but I used these at the clinic last night, and they sounded phenomenal. You know, phenomenal. So any situation, I can rely on what I know is in me as far as, of course, playing ability, but tone wise.
Okay.
So to circle back around to your question, I'm like going down my list mentally of essentials for me. I need a good boost, maybe an overdrive.
Okay.
A little bit of wetness going on. I like a little bit of reverb and a little bit of delay.
Okay. Just so it sounds fuller.
Really, that's it.
Okay.
I could do away with everything else. Because again, I've over the years rely so much on the amp to really bring out my sound. And, you know, there's the conversations about where does tone come from. In my world, definitively, it starts with an idea of what you want to sound like. Then you develop your hands to make that happen. You choose the gear to get that out.
Accentuate that, sure.
And then, you know, other things like that, like pedals and stuff that we're talking about. You know, so you got to find the right amp, and it's a journey. It takes, you know, it's not gonna happen on day one of buying an amp.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people flip gear, and that's for a reason. You kind of have to experiment.
Spend some time with it.
Yeah, you like 112, 212, 412, 312, 10s.
Yeah.
And that's just speakers.
Yeah.
Close back, open back. There's the cabs, and then we're talking about the amp. What wattage and what kind of tubes do you like in there?
Right.
There's a lot of variables to go through to figure it out. Same thing with guitars. I mean, let's talking about just woods. And then what kind of single coils, P90s, mini humbuckers, full humbuckers, scale length,
strings,
all of that stuff. Yeah. You know, it's a process. So go through it. Everybody has to. So I've got it down to I don't need too much. I'm real simple. Okay. You know, I like to keep things simple, and there's really nothing on that list. Is the whole point.
Okay, all right.
Again, there's nothing that I go in looking for. You know, like anybody. Something crops up, and I'm the kind of person where it's like, oh, that pedal, I really want to get one of those, and I have a hard time letting it go
until I get inspiration. One. You want to
it's like maybe it doesn't work once you get it, and then you sell it, and it's no big deal. But there's nothing on that list right now.
Okay,
I'm supremely content.
Okay, so you had mentioned a cable failure. You know, with the more you have, the more that could go wrong. Mm-hmm. Being a professional touring musician, someone who does this for a living, tell me about your biggest gear failure or kind of your most embarrassing on-stage moment.
Well, you know, there's never been like huge disasters.
That's lucky.
Really, there's never been, but that comes from preparation.
Yeah.
You know, I play a stereo rig, and even if I'm on tour with Steve, I don't play a stereo rig because he is stereo, and there's not enough room in the sonic scope for both of you guys. Stereo rigs. So I just play mono. It's his show. It is what it is. But there's always two amps on stage and they're always set the exact same. If one goes down, pull the cables over to the other one, and we're back up and running. Okay. And the show won't stop. It'll be a few seconds, and that's it. That I might drop out, but that's it. That's actually never happened. What happened one time, and I'm not going to mention names of manufacturers or anything. I don't want to throw them under the bus because, you know, when you tour, and this stuff gets thrown in and out of trucks.
It wears down, it gets
in and out of planes.
Yeah.
You know, this stuff's been around the world. Again, we're talking nearly 20 years. Of course, not all the same gear, but things break. And my pedal board, I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't even want to get into specifics because, again, I don't want to throw the people under the bus that built it. But it's not their fault anyway. Again, it's just use. Sure. But the brains of the pedal board went down. So really all that happened then, guitar cable straight to the amp. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, as long as that's functioning, you can get through a show. You know, all of the nice effects were missing and et cetera, but it happens. It happens. Yeah, just plug me straight in. You can't make excuses. You have to keep the show going.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's what astonishes me when I see people playing shows with one amp. You know, I don't know how they do it. I mean, to me, again, let's say if you know this new band, I'm the only guitar player. And if I had one amp and it went down, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Sorry, folks, show's over.
See you guys.
Because I'm unprofessional and I don't have another amp ready to go.
Yeah.
So, that's why I run a stereo rig, because it sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's just bigger, it's fuller, and then of course the stereo effects just sound so fun. They're so amazing.
It sounds like alive compared to a mono rig.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so nice. But again, there's also a more practical purpose. If one amp goes down, you've got the second ready to go.
Yeah.
That's a really great thing to think about. And a lot of people think, well, the expense of another amp. Yeah, but again, if your show goes down, guess what? That venue, the agent, the promoter, whatever, might not be talking too good about things and might not bring you back.
Yeah.
So you have to take this very seriously.
Yeah.
This is one section of the world there that we do have to take seriously. You have to plan and prepare so that it goes as great as possible.
Yeah, and you're hired to do a job. You need to do that.
Exactly.
To the best
people
of
pay
your
money to
ability.
get in and watch you play.
Yeah.
I don't care if there's 5 people out there or 50 or 5,000, whatever it's going to be. You can't do that. So.
That makes total sense.
That's why I use the rig that I do.
Okay. Well, I look forward to hearing it tonight. First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for the questions.
Here and hang out with us for the night. I know we're awfully excited to have you here. It's
gonna be a lot of fun.
The vibe in the store all day has been really cool.
Cool.
Like Christmas. Is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with?
Again, I've got this new band coming. I would really just say follow me on all the social. I'm everywhere, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And from that, it'll springboard over to the pages and such for the new band.
Okay.
So, Dave Weiner Music is pretty much the handle for, I think, all of that stuff, I believe. So just follow me there. Check out Gitopia. Again, I'm very hands-on. When support questions come in, it comes to me.
That's cool.
And it's not about the site. Hey, my account, blah, blah, blah. Somebody else handles that. But when questions come in, and this is a great thing that I tell we call them Gitopians. If you have a question about a scale or a piece of gear or something, feel free to send that in. Because having access to, again, I'm not patting myself on the back. It's just experience.
Yeah.
The people that I go to for advice and help and insight are the ones who have experience for decades.
Yeah.
Because that's the guide. If you want to be a good teacher, if you want to be a good guide of any kind, it only comes from one thing, and that's getting out there and gaining the experience to have the insight, to be wise about a situation, So I tell people, hey, send in your email. So that's another cool aspect of the support side of things. So
that's
check
really
out
cool
Gitopia.
It's a lot as a resource.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And that's it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Well, awesome. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, guys.